Marguerite Crespillo, for those of you who know me or those of you who don't, and I have been in real estate for 31 years. It's kind of crazy to me. I can't believe it has been that long. I started when I was like two. Well, maybe not, maybe a little older than that. But the bottom line is I've been in real estate for a long time, and I've been a part of over 30, let's see, 4,000 transactions now. Now, I don't say that to brag. I just tell you because I've done a lot of business and I've made a lot of mistakes, right? And so it's important to keep in mind that here's how things work. We screw up and we learn by the mistakes that we make. And so I developed these checklists because of things that I thought were simple that people would understand. And now people have access to the internet more than they ever have. They've got access to Google and research and they can check everything out. But the truth is that the consumer, the client doesn't really understand how the process works. And to be honest with you, even if you have a client who has bought and sold multiple homes, the truth is isn't our industry changing on a daily basis? I mean, literally, rules are changing left and right that we're having to figure out and navigate. And we, as professionals in the business, are having to navigate that. So imagine somebody who's not in this business on a regular basis and what they need to understand. So, today we're going to really talk about how to use confident client conversations to lead your clients through the process and help them understand. Understand the process and what's going to happen. And the crazy thing to me is, I know we had some lawsuits happen last year that changed the way we do things. And here's the truth. I wasn't fazed by it at all because I have always believed that the most important thing you can do is have upfront conversations with your clients to help them understand the process because it builds this fine line of trust that can be developed or broken in one way or another. For example, when I explain something to you up front, and that happens, you go, oh, yeah, Marguerite warned me about that, right? But when I don't explain things to you up front and something goes wrong, guess what happens? All of a sudden, you start to go in your mind about what else didn't she tell me? Where else might I get screwed? What else might go wrong that I'm not prepared for? So think of it like getting an operation. Let's say you're going to go in and you're going to have, I don't know, a knee operation or, a broken arm. You'll notice that when you actually meet with the doctor, what do? They sit down and they go through what's going to happen. We're going to bring you in. We're going to, put you under. We're going to do this procedure. Here's the things that could go wrong. Here's the things that will likely go right. And they prepare you for that surgery, correct? But in real estate, we don't do that. We seem to do it a little bit on the listing side, but we definitely don't do it on the buyer side. And so the client discussion checklists that I've created are there to help guide you through all the things that happen in a real estate process. So we're going to dig into some highlights of this. And so understand that why this is so important is because number one, clients want clarity. They want to understand what's happening. And ideally, they want to understand upfront, right? They want to know what's going to happen, what can go wrong, what things that they should be aware of, what mistakes could have happened. I mean, come on, how many of you guys have had a client who has that big fear of buying the money pit, right? Anyone remember that movie? The money pit where everything went wrong in the house and they're petrified that that's going to happen to them. So we need to help them really understand. And the other end of it is you, as the agent, you're the professional, and you really, really, really want to have control of that client to help them understand what's going to happen and to be able to guide them, right? There's that famous saying that people are all silently begging to be led. And that's so true in a real estate transaction, whether it's buyer or seller. They want to be led, they want to be given direction. Now, we're not here to sell them. You're not going to force anybody to buy or sell a home that they don't want, but they do need direction and guidance from the true professional. I am a little tongue-tied today, which is you, right? And the truth is, the conversation that you're having with them is what converts them to make the decision on whether they want to work with you or not. If you can lead a confident conversation, you can lead a client to closing. The best thing that you can do out there is be confident, whether you're new or newer, or you're a long-time experienced agent. The reality is that with this checklist, even if you're a brand new or newer agent, you can sound really sharp, you can sound really smart by having all of these conversations up front and helping clients understand what's going to happen throughout the process. So, let's be honest, we've all done this, right? We've all made the big mistakes. We've been out there winging it, trying to figure out what's going on. We've spent a lot of time talking too much and listening too little, not really listening to what people have to say. And I'm famous for this one, forgetting the important stuff, right? You start chit-chatting and yakking and talking about everything and the weather and kids and animals and all that stuff. Next thing you know, you've forgotten to tell them half the stuff that you know you needed to tell them, right? And many times we don't have any clear flow or any structure to what we're saying. We're just pulling stuff out of the air and saying, oh, we should talk to them about this. And truth be told, I would venture to say that at least 95% of agents out there aren't doing any upfront conversations with their client. And here's the reality, that confidence doesn't come from guessing. It comes from some guidance and direction. Now, I'm here to tell you that even with 4,000 transactions under my belt, I use these checklists every single time. And I give the client a copy and I have them sign a copy and I keep a copy in my folder. That way I know that I've had the conversation with them. That way I know that I've covered everything that needed to be covered and I didn't forget something important because we've all done that, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to say this. I totally didn't tell them that. That stuff happens all the time. So here's really the framework that I use. I start by, of course, welcoming them, setting the tone, having this conversation with them, getting to know them a little bit, breaking the ice, right? And then I set the expectations like, hey, what is this meeting for? What are we going to talk about? What are we going to go over? And what's going to be most important to them? And then the other end of it is I want to make sure that that I help them understand the process, like what's going to happen next, right? What does that time frame look like? For example, if you're doing a 30-day escrow, or if you're in the middle of a transaction, usually the first couple weeks is when people are really nervous. They're like, oh, it's kind of that fear. Well, did I make a mistake? Should I have done this? But that's the time when they're doing inspections. It's time when they're reviewing everything, they're checking out neighborhoods, they're getting all the stuff to the lender. They're overwhelmed by everything they're having to get everybody. Even, isn't it true how overwhelming the lender process is? I mean, they're giving up their firstborn, they're having to have blood drawn. Just kidding. But the truth is, it's overwhelming, and they have people digging into their personal finances and what's going on with them. It's uncomfortable, it's awkward, and it's embarrassing. And they need people to guide them through and help them understand that this is all normal, that they're going to have all these things happen and they might get a little bit of cold feet, but we're here to help give them direction and guidance to get through this process as smoothly as we possibly can, right? And so the interesting thing about this is how important it is that we give them the time to talk as well, right? What kind of questions do they have? What are their concerns? All these clients many times have an Aunt Sally that sold real estate 25 years ago that's here to give them all kinds of advice, whether it makes sense or not. She doesn't have any idea what's going on in the current market. So they need you to give them that direction and guidance. The other part is the close. What are you doing and how important is it that you're helping them recap what you're discussing and what those next steps are, right? Now that we've finished this client conversation, guess what? We're going to get you into the process of out there looking for homes. We're going to set up your client portal for you. We're going to help you understand all the different things that are part of this client discussion checklist. So, and of course, we have buyer and seller versions available, right? And for those of you who have purchased it, we are looking to put together a detailed scripts about this and what you're exactly going to say. Okay. So here's a few things, go-tos that I never want to skip. Here's some sample talking points that are in this checklist. First of all, what is so important to you, the consumer, the client, in this move? Why are you moving? Here's an important thing to remember, you guys. When you get to the real heart of what they're going through, and there becomes these bumps in the road in the middle of a real estate transaction, the best thing you can do is remind them of their why, right? When they get to you and they say, hey, we're buying because we want to be closer to the schools, we want to be able to walk to the schools, or we're downsizing, our kids are grown and we're looking for a single story, or all these different reasons. When you get to those important whys, that is how you can hold these deals together and help these clients understand why they're doing this, right? I mean, they say that the most stressful thing right behind death and divorce is buying and selling a home on the stress meter. So it's really important that we make sure that we go through and we help them understand what's going to happen and how we can make it as smooth and hassle-free as we possibly can, right? And here's some things to expect. Are you going over what to expect during the inspection period? We talked earlier about people have this big fear of buying this money pit, right? And so, are you helping them understand that yes, you get the opportunity to do inspections? Yes, if something big comes out and we have an inspection contingency in our contract, we may need to back out and go buy something else. Yes, we have an opportunity to negotiate. The seller can say yes, no, or maybe. Guess what? We can, as buyers, respond to that and say yes, no, or maybe. Yes, we're going to accept what you say. No, we're not going to accept what you say. Or you know what? This is just too much for us. We're going to walk away from this transaction and move on. At which point, based on your contract, you can be entitled to a refund of your earnest money deposit, right? Some other important things are how we work and how to reach us. You guys, one of the big issues I see with agents is that they don't give any clear definition of their schedule. As real estate agents, we're working 24/7, right? We're available 7 days a week. Call me anytime, which is crazy because now you have no life, nothing to build around. So here's what I do. I explain to them as part of my checklist. Guess what? Here's what we're going to do. This is my schedule. I'm available Monday through Fridays from 8:30 to 5:30. I work evenings and Saturdays by appointment. And guess what? I take Sundays off to be with my family. This is all important stuff that we're making sure they understand. Now, do I sometimes go around that rule? Of course, sometimes I go around that rule. If I have relocation clients coming into town, or something that I have to accommodate them. But I'll tell you what, most clients are very respectful of my schedule. They will say, hey, they'll leave a message. They'll say, hey, Marguerite, I know you don't work on Sundays, but I'll look forward to hearing back from you tomorrow. Here's what I need help with, right? This is a very important conversation that you need to have with them. And it's real important to help them understand when you're available and when you're not, right? The next thing is who is a part of your team? This is an important conversation to have as well. Who is that? Is your lender available, right? Oh, it looks like we've got a few people hopping in here at the last minute. So, who is part of your team? Your lender is part of your team. Your title and escrow people are part of your team. Your inspectors are part of your team. Guess what? Maybe you have a transaction coordinator. Maybe you don't, right? Maybe you have an assistant that is helping you, but they need to understand that you do have these different people that are all part of your team because people get overwhelmed with all these different contacts from different people. They don't know who's available, who's not, right? These simple prompts can make a big difference when you're building that trust for these clients. It's super important. Okay. So the next thing is in how has this helped me? Well, first of all, it's helped me build trust from minute one. I'm here to tell you that on these checklists are literally things that I have had happen and go wrong over the years. And it's so important that I make sure that I'm helping these people understand what's going to happen. A perfect example is for some of you who've been around long enough and you are familiar with HUD homes or VA buyers. Well, VA buyers are promoted all the time as, hey, no money down, no, no nothing, right? No closing costs. So then you get a VA buyer, and guess what? You go to get you're in contract, and all of a sudden you need to get an earnest money deposit from them. They're like, but you said there was no money required. I don't have the money in the bank. Well, what part of what we talk about on our client discussion checklist is how important upfront costs are and what they are, right? So they don't think, well, what else is it going to cost me? Where else am I going to need money? Am I going to have to pay for this? And you didn't tell me I was going to have to pay for that. And I don't have enough money to pay the earnest money and the inspectors and all these things, right? This is really important that you go over all of these things in this checklist. And another thing is that honestly, it builds that trust from minute one and it prevents those awkward silences and that forgotten information. It helps save these deals from falling apart later. And I'm here to tell you, every time I stick to the checklist, the conversation flows like butter. And every time I don't stick to the conversation checklist and I miss something, something happens in the middle of a transaction. I'm like, oh, I totally forgot to tell them that, right? When I get distracted from the conversation. And your clients will feel that professionalism from you. I'm here to tell you that many reasons that why friends and family don't use agents, their family and friends, is because you didn't show up as a professional. You didn't sit down with them and help them understand everything that is going to happen. They don't know. You just kind of winged it. You showed up at the house, you showed it to them. You didn't help them understand everything. And guess what? Partway through this deal, they're confused, they're overwhelmed, they're stressed out. They're getting lots of advice from lots of different people. And really, all of that advice needs to come from you, right? So, are you doing these now? Now, this is what I'm here to tell you. They're super important. So, what I've done is I've actually taken these checklists, right? And I've put them in a editable format that you can use plug and play. You can go through and take the checklist, you can modify them, edit them. They're in a PDF download so you can implement them right away. And to be honest with you, I've put so much, literally 31 years of expertise into these checklists. And truth be told, I have not changed them a lot in all these years because the process hasn't changed. And honestly, I have had people who've used these checklists throughout the country. They've used them all over. And rarely do I have somebody come back and say, oh, we don't do it that way in our market. There might be small little differences that you can edit or adjust. Like some states I know are attorney states. Here in California, which is where I am located, we are an escrow state. And so that's really important to keep in mind. And I suggest that you go through and review it. Look at the questions that are on there, the conversation checklist, and see if you need to make any changes that you might want to make to it. But the truth is you're walking away from skills. I mean, walking away with the skills that you need to lead from confidence, not guesswork. The best thing you can do is show up confident. People want to work with somebody who knows what they're talking about. And even again, if you're new or newer, right, you can use this checklist and sound like you're an expert. I've seen people use it that are brand new and don't know. So if you want to check out my checklist and you get a freebie in there, you can comment on one of my posts or send me a DM.